I had a friend of mine call me. He'd moved into a community in North America that didn't have a church that he liked. Now notice how I qualified that. He didn't have a church he liked. So he wanted me to come there and start a church. And this was a very upscale community, a gated community, minimum house price probably close to $1 million. And he wanted me to come there and start a church. He says, look, I will pay you out of my own pocket $65,000 a year if you'll just come start this church. And I'll provide you a house and a car and all that stuff. I said, well, you know, it's a good deal, but I can come there and try to start a church and nothing will happen. He says, what do you mean nothing? I said, I promise you, I can walk to every house in your community and knock on the door and say, hey, I'm the local pastor or I'm the local church planter, and the door will go right in my face if I ever get past the gate of the house to get into the door. And I said, but if you got a few minutes, I can teach you how to start a church. Now, this guy's vice president of a multinational. He's making the kind of money that lets him live in that neighborhood. I said, next Saturday, you and your wife, I want you to walk to each of the houses in your neighborhood, knock on the door, invite them to a barbecue at your house. He said, how many houses are there? He said, there's 40 houses in our gated community. I said, okay, walk to 40 houses, knock on the door, invite them to come to your house for a barbecue next week. And he said, well, then what do I do? And I said, have a barbecue. That's what you do. You have a barbecue. Anything else? I said, no, just have the barbecue. And so a few weeks later, he comes and says, well, I had the barbecue, now what? I says, now? How many people showed up? He says, well, we invited 40, 42 showed up. I said, okay. Word got out. I said, next month I want you to have another barbecue, but this time I want you to prepare topics of interest in your community. What are the problems in your community? And ask people just in a casual way about the problems in their community. And as you find out those problems, I said, take note of them. Literally, take note. And so the next time he had a barbecue, and he took note of the issues in the community. And then he says, calls me, did it, says, we got a long list of things that are going on in our community. I says, now you got to figure out how to solve them. I said, have another meeting and start talking about how can we solve our community problems. And you bring in the spiritual component and see who responds to the spiritual component of the solution. And he says, we did that. Well, to make a long story short, I met with the pastor of the church and they just bought 40 acres of land and they're building their first building, and that's been almost 15 years. Okay. Now, a church planter could have walked into there and would have never succeeded in starting a church. But a vice president of a multinational was able to start a church. And guess what? Nobody paid him to do it. And that's true in the micro level anywhere.